to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from Daytona Beach, Florida. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on Fringe.fm, KTLK, digital broadcasting, one and only Fringe FM. I want to thank Michael Strange from Troubled Minds Radio, and as we go deeper into the night, you'll also get to hear the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. 6 hours of Fringe late night for you every night here, 5 nights a week, plus on the weekends, too. Tonight, Dark Waters is back with us. We're going to get into some spooky storytelling again, which is my favorite part of this whole thing, is storytelling. And we've got the best man here to do the job. If this is your first time listening to the broadcast, remember that you can call in anytime at 1-800-588-0335. You can join our Discord server by going to fringe.fm and click on the Discord. Make a donation to the station. Buy something from the LTV shop. All of the altar boxes, thanks to Brett, are shipped out. So if you ordered an altar box, it is on its way. If he hasn't emailed you those tracking numbers, just let me know. I'll send you a tracking number, right? Just email me at contact@lightingthevoid.com. So, we've got Dark Waters back here with us, and he's like the king of storytelling when it comes to telling stories about cryptids and paranormal encounters, and he's been on the show quite a few times, also a colleague of mine, and man, it's really good to have you back. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Oh man, I'm always happy to be here with you, brother. How you feeling?
I'm actually feeling pretty good, despite what's going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, but I mean, it's one of those things where that stuff you can't control. Like I was telling a friend of mine the other day, he was like, man, we might go to nuclear war. I was like, oh, well, we all just died. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit here and stress it. I can't control what's going to happen. Yeah. I understand why it's happening, who's doing it, why they're doing it, the war that's going on, the in and out of it. All the thing I can do is, kind of work on the things and make the changes in my life and the people around me and make things better for those people the best I can. So I don't stress none of that, man. I don't stress it at all.
Yeah, and that's what I said last night, too. It seems like every 3 or 4 years, Russia's invading somebody, and we're trying to do something about it, and then people calm down afterwards. There's always something going on in the world, some need for panic or whatever. But the spiritual war is going on constantly. I mean, you and I have talked about that quite a bit. But it's definitely an internal war, I believe. Now, in this age, everyone's talking about that this is the new age of Aquarius, or the Christ-like consciousness coming. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, you see it everywhere. You see people call it the age of Aquarius. In books, it's called the fourth turning. The whole popular thing now is calling it the Great Awakening. It happens periodically when we as humanity go so far away from God that we get to the point that we're sinful as hell. And then either we get destroyed and we start all over again, or we find a way to redeem ourselves and stop being crazy and sinful. We're at the precipice of that moment now where humanity has to make a decision. I see humanity rising up and standing up and saying, no, we're not doing this crazy foolishness. You elite people need to stop. You're getting on our damn nerves. Does that mean it's going to stop? I don't know. But I just believe we all were born. We chose to be here at this time, to be here in this moment. So I'm just going to live it and enjoy it. If hyperinflation kicks in, I'm prepared for it. If war kicks in, I'm prepared for it. If, riots and crazy stuff happen, I'm fine with that too. Whatever comes my way, I'm cool with it, bro. Like, that's the whole purpose of preparing yourself for the future. So if something goes wrong, you're prepared. You don't have to panic. So I've been spending my time preparing, and whatever comes, you just deal with it, man. I just think that it's a great thing that people are waking up across the world, across the planet, in the U.S. specifically. But it's only so much you can do, is what I'm saying. And you do the best that you can under those circumstances.
Yeah, last night I did a show about, I was talking about the tarot, about the devil card, and I was explaining the bat wings of the devil on the tarot card, about how he's the demon of the air, or demons of the air, how demons will get you trapped in your mind, doubting yourself and all kinds of stuff, right? So like I study the occult, that, right? But I know you also study exorcisms and deliverance and things like that, but there's definitely a war of the mind going on too. And I try to tell people, you know how you can usually tell when a demon's messing with you is when you feel like your tail's spinning and you got all these bad voices in your head telling you you ain't worth nothing, because God doesn't tell you that. He tells you the opposite, you know?
Yeah, that's the true spiritual warfare. It is a battle of the mind. And most people, when, it's glorified so much, on television and movies about demonic possession. And it's the later phases of possession, almost to where you're damn near to a perfect possession where the demon has control over that person's body and their will and their conscience. But the beginning phases of it, which is the casting doubt and slowly tearing and breaking a person down, nobody really focuses on that. But it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
So what I found for me personally is, I'm prayerful, and praying allows me to combat that. Everybody has it. And that's the one thing I tell my witnesses all the time, because you end up talking to people over years and you find out things about their lives and about the kids' lives, and you kind of live their life with them. I personally live their life with them after I start talking to them. And I've talked to people who've been through some very, very tough times. And I just explained to them, hey, tough times don't last. Bad stuff happens. It's not really, what the bad times do to you. Is how you handle those bad times that allow you to be successful and be happy. And then I'm very conscious of hearing what people are saying and how they speak to themselves, and in turn, how that internal voice projects to me when I'm communicating with them. It's so much that you can learn about a person if you really just listen to them. If you listen to the tone, if you listen to how some people will say something like, man, I'm just stupid. I always do this. Right. And that's something that they do all the time. You know what I'm saying? And it's not of God. And so therefore those people end up having extremely bad encounters and extremely bad things happening in their lives. So my advice to everybody is, this is a time to be prayerful. And if you're not a praying person, then, you're not a praying person. But if you're a praying person, this is a time to be prayerful. This is a time to be aware of your surroundings and just be ready to go at, any moment's notice.
What do you think has been more prevalent now of late? Because, man, you've been doing this for so long, right? What do you think is really picking up now? Like I study like all kinds of different demons and stuff, but is the cryptid activity picking up, or is it more demonic activity, you think?
It's actually both. Like I'm getting Dogman and Bigfoot encounters, and they seem to be more not aggressive. That's not the word I'm looking for. The word, they're the barrier of them like not approaching. They're encroaching more for whatever reason right now. I don't understand that, because normally, Bigfoot encounters that I would hear would be, it was hiding behind a tree. I'm getting a lot more encounters of them stalking hunters in the woods, following them all the way home, coming back to their house. And it's just, that's not a normal behavior for what people will call the big brother of the woods. You know what I'm saying? Normally he's like watching you, and if you're in the wrong area, he runs you off. But it's getting to the point to where it's a little bit kind of chaotic and crazy. On the human level, it's very easy to tell what's going on to humanity. Humanity has just been through a huge psychological operation where they intentionally have been driven crazy, and intentionally been fed information and then counter information simultaneously that didn't make sense to confuse the public. So it's easy to tell what's going on with the public. Cryptids and everything else, it's strange and it's odd. So, but as far as we humans are concerned, you'll notice that now people are doing things that are just nonsensical. It just doesn't make sense. Like you'll see somebody riding down the street in their car with a mask on in a car by themselves. That makes no sense, right? So people are literally being driven crazy, and as their minds fracture and shatter through mind control, then other things can get into their mind. And the average person doesn't have it all together as is, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But as their mind is just being hit with this hammer over and over and over again, and it starts to crack that shell, then other things start sliding in. And that's why you see the uptick in violence, you see the uptick in domestic abuse, you see the uptick across the board in stuff that's going on. Because I think the last time we were talking, I was saying that, somewhere, somehow, the gates of hell started to swing open. And they've been open a while now. You know what I'm saying? They've been open a while now. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's just, but again, in my opinion, it all goes back to being prayerful and, staying centered and focused on things that are most important for you, your family, your bloodline, which is very, very important because you want to preserve that at a time like this, and your finances. And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, always good to have a little stability, right? So stability means stability and security, which I'll talk about the 4 elements a lot. You got to have a sound mind, sound emotions, body, and all that stuff. That's good. That's good, too. I want, I've had you on the show a long, long time, man, and I never asked you these questions. The biggest question, and by the way, we do have some original stories that Dark Waters has done. We're going to play tonight, and these are produced and done by you. I have to say, man, you still continue to impress me. Like, these stories I could just listen to, not just the stories themselves, but how it's produced. Like, I could listen to them forever, man. So I just want to give you props on that. But
thanks, man.
I got to thinking the other day about a lot of stuff that happened to me when I was a child. And I remember when I was young, either my grandmother or my Aunt Sherry would babysit me, and I would sleep in this room. And sometimes I heard things, and I used to think, well, I'm hearing stuff, right? Like, I'm just hearing weird stuff, because that's what your parents would tell you. You're hearing stuff. It's all in your mind. But one time, my aunt came out and was like, I heard this weird, like, suffocating sound. And she came out and told me she heard it too. It come from upstairs. Well, my great grandmother used to sleep in that room. Now I have to think that either that's, and when I was a kid, it horrified me, right? And I was thinking, like, all these things that happened to me when I was a kid, there were so many horrific things that happened when I was a child. If children are protected by God, then why are they so tormented? And I'm not saying all children are, but for the most part, a lot of children I talk to are tormented by things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. As a child, those things are frightening. But what I like to call people like that, you and I, we are what I would call like spiritual, supernatural gladiators. And at a young age, you go into training. And the results of that training is the man or woman that you become as an adult. So a lot of people who are into the paranormal realm, into the paranormal genre, they can see the forest and the leaves on the trees, and they can see from 30,000-foot view of what's going on in the world right now, because the context of their mind has been shifted to realize that there's more to this planet and more to this life than what everybody else is aware of, right? So unfortunately, it's kind of like a baptism by fire. You see some things, you experience some things. It didn't kill you. It didn't break you. But on the other end, you're a stronger person to deal with what comes later in life. So it's kind of like you got an advanced course for the times that we're living in right now. It doesn't seem like it when you're a kid. It's just like there's a noise in my bedroom. I saw something moving down the hallway, bada bing, bada boom. But as an adult, it's actually a great asset because your mind is able to think outside of the box. You're able to see things differently. You're able to readily accept information and go look it up. Think about what it does to most kids who see something weird or strange. It frightens them, yes. But majority of the kids I talk to, eventually they start trying to figure out what the hell it is.
Yeah.
And that's how they end up reading at an early age, looking into things, understanding things. Now, some kids get ushered down the road towards some very dark stuff. And that's a part of it. But other kids don't go down that road. So to answer the question, why God allows things to happen, which is the number one question that everybody, is concerned with. Why does God allow war? Why does God allow famine? Why does God allow, all this other stuff? At the end of the day, I believe only God knows that. But also at the same time, I believe we're being tested. And I think that God wants us to prove ourselves worthy of his love and his affection. So I think we're being tested in not only are we just being tested once, I think we're being tested multiple times. You know what I'm saying? As a Christian, I've talked to pastors, like one of my friends is a pastor. I talked to him this week, and we were talking about reincarnation. He was like, well, as a Christian, I don't believe in reincarnation. I said, that's fine. I said, but there's things that speak to my soul that I don't know why they speak to my soul. And I was explaining to him that the first time I ever heard a haka, the warriors dance and song, I think they do it in, I don't know if it's Hawaii or wherever the hell they do it, or New Zealand.
Yeah.
The first time I heard a haka ever, like my whole body vibrated. And I was like, whoa, it was like something familiar, like something I did myself. Like I didn't know the words, but the words even sounded familiar. And I was like, that don't make no damn sense. That makes no sense at all. And so I started praying on it and praying on it and praying on it and praying on it. And I was like, God, I need you to reveal to me why this is this way. And then eventually, I was on the phone with my friend Jason, who's a martial artist. He owns a martial arts school. And we were just talking about the haka and all the rest of the stuff. And he ended up clicking over and talking to his pastor. And we just brought it up to his pastor. And then his pastor said one thing that made a lot of sense to me. He said, well, our souls are tested multiple times. He was like, people talk about reincarnation and all the rest of this. He said, I'm not saying I believe in reincarnation, but I know our souls are tested. He was like, maybe one of your tests, you were a warrior. And I was like, that makes sense, because it resonated with me as in my body, like I need to go literally kill somebody right now. Like I need to get up and kill somebody.
Like the warrior kind of masculine energy started vibrating in you big time when you heard it, right?
Way more than, I was like, what the hell? Like it brought out something in me that I tell people all the time, for me personally, there's a beast that's in a cage that I locked up and threw away the key. He broke the cage.
Yeah.
Like he was like, oh, no, it's time for me to go. Like you've been having me in this cage because we live in this modern world where everybody's nice and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm in this cage. Like he said, oh, no, it's time for me to go. You need to go sit down. I was like, what the hell is going on? So the concept of our souls learning over and over and over again, I think has a lot to do with what people experience and what people encounter. And I've seen it in my friends. I've seen it in my relationships with people. I point it out to people all the time. Like there's people who I deal with on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And I sit back and I watch them go through the same test over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The same trial over and over and over again. It may be over the course of a year. One guy, his finances are tested. Gets to a point to where he makes a lot of money. Things are going well, and then it crashes, right? Then he goes back through the cycle, makes a lot of money, things go well, then it crashes. Another person, it's a relationship. You in a decent relationship, you're in that relationship for 3 to 4 months, and then it crashes, and then you're in another relationship, and it crashes, and another relationship, and it crashes. And so to me, those are all tests that you need to pass. And I can say, like, from a paranormal standpoint, the paranormal test that I went through of, being on 2706 Robert Street and giant shadows walking around the house and temperature dropping, being cold, hearing noises, hearing whispers, hearing all that stuff that was going on, I'm pretty confident I passed that test because it was meant for me to learn spiritual warfare and master spiritual warfare and learn how to defend myself and defend my family. I don't have those problems anymore. Every blue moon, some weird stuff will happen. Like, and it's rarely something weird will happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm past that phase, and so now I'm on to my next test. So to sum up everything I'm saying, I personally believe that this life is a test and that we're here to be tested. And sometimes we're here to help others pass their tests.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Right. Yeah, I get that too. And like speaking of like the demonic stuff, man, and that masculine warfare kind of thing, I've had that come out in me in ways like you really realize, like, damn, just how dark you can get, and it's sad. Like, and I don't even know if I want to call it dark. I guess you could say fiery or dark, right? Which is all kind of the same thing to me. And you realize, like, I'm just as capable of all the evil that I talk against, like we can definitely allow ourselves to get that way. And of course, I mean, look what we're going through. We're doing, just like you said, with this Russia and things, we're doing the same stuff over and over again too as a society, over and over again, it seems like.
Yeah, but it's easy to be evil. I mean, the hardest thing is actually to be kind, nice, and be a good person. It's easy to be evil.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, yeah. It's very, very easy to be an evil person. I mean, it's easy to be self-centered, be only concerned about yourself, and just to do evil, foul stuff. That's evil. That's easy. It really is. The hard part is when you try. The hard part is doing the right thing in the face of evil, doing the right thing in the face of people who are trying to take advantage of you or trying to do something wrong. That's the hard thing. Yeah. And then balancing how you do that when, for example, let's say somebody's trying to take advantage of you, but you know they're trying to take advantage of you, but you know why they're trying to take advantage of you. They got a problem. And so they're not mature enough to communicate to you, hey, I really need help. So they're trying to manipulate to get that help. The hard part is to sit there and say, okay, you're trying to be manipulative or you're trying to do this. I see the manipulation, but I know why the manipulation is there, and I still choose to help you. I choose to do this. And then to help that person, right? That's more difficult than being a shyster or a snake or anything else, because you're going to always find a greater fool that you can take advantage of. It's just making those decisions of when you're going to help, when you're not going to help, when you're going to jump in and do stuff and not.
The boundaries, right? Because I feel like my patience has been tested to I don't know how many different points, but then I think I fail each time because instead of setting the boundary or walking away in kindness, I end up just flipping out evilly a lot of times. And I think in the long term, when I look at it, I'm more angry with myself than I am anybody else. And I think I end up taking that out on other people, sometimes.
Yeah. And that happens, bro. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing or a good thing. It just means you need to learn how to manage that encounter, you know what I'm saying, with that person. So for me, everybody's looked at from 30,000 feet. Everybody's looked at from above, and their actions are viewed from above. And 90% of the people I deal with, I let them do things until it gets to a point to where I don't let it happen anymore. Because I'm sitting there watching what you're doing. I'm sitting there seeing what you're doing and seeing how it benefits me. If it does benefit me, if it doesn't. If it does benefit me, let's keep on going. You know what I'm saying? Let's do what we need to do. The minute it gets to the point to where it doesn't benefit me and it starts to hurt me, then no, we got to do something different. I'm sorry. We can't do that because I love myself more than I love you. I love myself enough and respect myself enough to where I'm going to say, hey, this is where I draw the line. Now, you may feel bad about it. You may be upset. I don't give a damn. That's your feelings. But this is where this line is drawn. Now, you can respect that line or you don't respect the line. And if you respect it, cool. If you don't, then we got to deal with how we got to deal with it. But at the same time, you got to love yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can't love yourself, then you're not capable of truly loving anyone else.
That's true.
And that's literally how it works. Like, for example, one of the stories we're going to play is about a guy who's a Wall Street. Well, he still is on Wall Street, but he's a Wall Street stock trader, right? And actually, he's an analyst. And he ended up, he was married, had a side chick that he was dating, and he was keeping the two households separate. And then the chick started like just spazzing out and trying to manipulate him to do stuff by saying, "Oh, if you don't do this, I'm gonna tell your wife. If you don't do this, I'm gonna tell your wife. If you don't buy me this, I'm gonna tell your wife." And it got to the point to where he was starting to get over it and was ready to break up with her. Then she started going into some old next level, eyes turning black, demonic type stuff and threatening them. And when we were talking
about, I think I might have lost you. We'll get him back though. I want to hear this story. Actually, we got to take a break anyways. I'll get him back though. But yeah, so we're going to play some stories tonight. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void.
Have you heard of the Einstein effect? Recently, a study was published to Nature Human Behavior, and it found out that people were more likely to believe something if a statement was attributed to a spiritual guru or a scientist. The study included participants from 24 countries and of all levels of religious belief. The findings were people were more likely to believe something if a scientist said it. Google's DeepMind AI can control the plasma in the tokamak nuclear fusion reactor. Published in the journal Nature, the DeepMind team explains how they use deep reinforcement learning to help magnetically control the hot plasma in the tokamak reactor. So what is deep reinforcement learning? Well, it's a subfield of machine learning where a machine can learn from its own decisions. So now we got AI controlling nuclear reactors. So it seems like archaeologists are always finding new dinosaurs. Recently, a 170 million year old pterosaur was discovered off the northwest coast of Scotland. And this is one of the largest ever found, with a 2.5 meter wingspan, or just over 8 feet. The new species provides evidence that pterosaurs started getting larger at a much earlier point in prehistory than previously thought. So this is the largest pterosaur of the Jurassic period. A museum in Chile is returning a Moai statue back to its home. This is part of a program to return items including ancestral remains, sacred and funerary objects to the Pacific island. Easter Island is about 2,000 miles away from Chile. This is the first time a Moai has been returned from the mainland. Similar negotiations have taken place to try to recover a specimen that's being held at the British Museum. It's good because these stolen artifacts are being returned to their rightful places. What will happen to the International Space Station? Some say parts of it should be put into a museum, but NASA says it's too difficult and expensive, so the final resting place of the ISS will be deep in the Pacific Ocean. A bat-winged humanoid sighting was reported in North Carolina to Phantoms and Monsters. On February 19th, a man in his backyard saw a dark, thin body clawing itself towards the top of his roof. The witness estimates the body was about 5.5 to 6 feet tall if fully extended. The wings, which were partially open, had a membrane similar to a bat with defined claws attached at the top. This has been the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM, bringing you the latest in Fringe news. I'm Jess Rogie.
This is KTLK Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
The king of YouTube horror. You go by many names, don't you? You have plenty of internet nicknames now. How long have you been doing this now, man?
Since 2015. So that's we're in 2007 years.
7 years. That is a long time to be putting out content. So I congratulate you on your success, dude. Like there is one thing that I like listening to online other than yours, and that's Art Bell's old archives. And then if I get bored with that, I'll listen to your stuff. So that's pretty much it. Nobody even knows that, man.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. I'm evolving. Like I'm getting ready to evolve it to where it's 100% more visual. But part of me starting off early with the way I did business with people with their stories, as in buying the rights to the story, was eventually to lead to like the short movie kind of deal, and that's where I'm headed towards now. Because, you know, everything is a visual platform. I believe true stories are 1,000 times better and more frightening and more entertaining than any of the stuff that Hollywood can write or any writer can come up with. It's just a matter of capturing the essence of that onto a screen. And so that's my next challenge, is to, you know, start off with something like a 3-minute, 4-minute short, but a real 3-minute, 4-minute frightening short. And see how it turns out. So that's what I'm working on.
So as we were talking about possession and what happens in spiritual war and all this stuff, you brought up the story of this woman that was doing this thing to this guy, and I think we have it here. If you want to go ahead and tell us, just give us a brief introduction to it, and then we'll play it.
Yeah, we can play it. So basically, he was living a double life, and he had to come to a point where he had to make a decision whether he was going to tell on himself or not, because she was threatening to tell on him that he had this outside relationship. And so he had to make a choice as to whether he was going to tell on himself or not. And so he decided to write his wife a letter and tell his wife what he did. It was better to do that than be dealing with this demonically possessed woman. And that's what he ended up doing because of her behavior and because the way her eyes were changing, turning to be jet black when they were laying in the bed together. It was crazy, but take a listen. It's a good story.
So we're going to play this story. These are originally produced. There is adult content in here, just letting you guys know, but here we go.
It's the moment investors around the world wait for, the 9:30 opening of the U.S. market. Inside Citadel's Chicago headquarters, it's eerily quiet, even though this firm trades more stocks every day than the New York Stock Exchange.
Now, 2 minutes they open, so we're about to get going here.
The equivalent of the NYSE's opening bell is just this. Millions of orders that have been waiting all night for the markets to open are rapidly filled by Citadel's computer programs.
We have executed 21 million shares already.
Wow, and we are not even 3 minutes in.
Now, how did I end up in my Wall Street office at 3 a.m. writing this letter to my wife, explaining to her that I've been keeping a mistress for the past 7 years? Well, give me a moment, I'll explain it all to you. I met her at a strip club, and yes, I am absolutely wrong for cheating on my wife. But what made it even worse is once I started keeping her, and by keeping her, I mean paying her bills, giving her living expenses, little small things, she became more and more demanding, threatening me all the time. I'm going to tell your wife if you don't buy me this purse, or I'm going to tell your wife if you don't pay this light bill. I remember one night her and I are out to dinner, and I see one of my coworkers. Now, this coworker knows that I'm married, and he knows that this woman that I'm with is not my wife. But likewise, I know that he's married, and the woman that he's with is not his wife. So we see each other, nod, he sends me over a bottle of champagne, and I send him one back. Well, she wants me to introduce her to him, and I tell her no. And then she threatens me again, saying, well, you're going to introduce us because you wouldn't want somebody else finding out about this relationship. Now, pause right here in the story for a minute. I work on Wall Street, make $750,000 a year. The $65,000 to $75,000 a year that I spent on her was a write-off. Now pause right here in the story for a moment and let me explain something to you. I work on Wall Street. I make $750,000 on a bad year, $1.8 million on a good year. So spending $100,000 to $150,000 of that money on a side woman was a write-off. And many of my coworkers did the exact same thing. It's kind of the culture of Wall Street. Anyway, moving on. Was the sex with her good? Yes, absolutely. Was spending time with her fantastic? Yes, it really was. She was a fun, physical, sexual, flirtatious woman. But then she started practicing magic. One evening, we were laying in bed. It's time for me to go home to my wife and family. And when I get up to get out of bed, she starts thrashing around like a stranded beach whale. Her voice changes and she says, no, you're with me tonight. You won't leave me tonight. Her head whipping back and forth like someone slapping the shit out of her. And then the woman I had been spending time with for 4 years, intimately making love to, I knew every curve of this woman's body, the scent of every orifice. She turns and looks at me, and her eyes are as black as midnight. And this crazy male voice comes out of her saying, if you leave now, I'll tell your wife. And so now we're getting to the point in my story where we answer the question that I proposed to you in the very beginning. How did I end up in my Wall Street office at 3 a.m. writing a letter to my wife explaining to her that I've been keeping a mistress for the past 7 years? I'm standing there looking at her with these black eyes, thinking about this entire situation and saying to myself, you know what? Fuck that. Sometimes you got to fall on the sword in order to get yourself out of some trouble that you shouldn't have never gotten yourself into in the first place. And that's how I ended up writing this letter. And listen to me, I'm not going to sit here and say to you that I'm sorry for what I did. Because no, I'm not. I'm sorry I picked the crazy bitch that decided to get possessed by Beelzebub.
Oh, man. That's a pretty intense one, right? So how long ago did you get that story?
I got that story at the beginning of the year, and I'll tell you the background behind that because it's hilarious. So when I used to sit on the board of this nonprofit called Save One Now, and technically I'm still on the board. We just haven't had a board meeting in forever. One of the investors that would fund our projects, his name is Laney Sweats. You can look him up. Laney Sweats owns like NOLA Motorsports down here. It's like a advanced racing course where you can race cars and rent Maseratis and rent all kind of fancy cars, right? Well, one of the guys that he brought into the meetings is this guy, Steve. And Steve and I became real cool because we would talk about cryptocurrencies and all kind of other stuff. And so Steve started telling me stories of the things that he encountered when he was on Wall Street, when he was like a younger Wall Street investor, an analyst. And that was one of his stories. And he's such a character, bro. It's just amazing. Like, he really is one of the people that if you sit down and hold a conversation with him, you're going to laugh. You have no choice but to laugh at all the crazy stuff that this guy's done. So that's how I ended up getting that story.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And how many of these stories do you go through typically? Let's just say in a month's time.
In a month's time, it just depends on how things are flowing that month and what how I lay them out. But normally I've been waiting on that to happen. Longer stories that are really intricate with all like hardcore sound effects and details. It's hard to come across those stories because you vet out a lot and a lot of it ends up not being true. But the really, really long, good quality, hardcore stories, probably about 5 of them a month that are, absolutely phenomenal. For those 5 stories, it takes a solid, probably solid 4 to 9 hours, probably more like 7 to 9 hours of vetting to get to them at this point in time. Like, I'm at the point now where I can vet well enough to where I'm comfortable, going through it relatively quickly and figuring out if a person's lying or not.
So do you think that guy made the right decision falling on the sword, as he puts it?
I don't think he had a choice but to fall on the sword. I don't think you had a choice. Like, I think the only thing you could do is fall on the sword in a situation like that. I don't think he had a choice whatsoever. That's the only thing he could do.
Right.
If not, then he was just going to be like manhandled. She was going to take advantage of him. So I think he did the right thing.
Yeah, it's better to tell your wife than have a demon tell your wife, right? For sure, because you don't know what the demon's going to say, right? So
it's better to tell your wife than anybody else tell your wife you around here doing some wild stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
come
better
out
to
with
not
it.
do the wild stuff in the first place. But if you're going to be one of those people who does wild and crazy stuff, it's better for you to come clean, because there's a way, there's a road to redemption if you come clean. But if you don't come clean, what's going to happen? Where do you go from there? There's nowhere you can go.
That's the way I look at it too. For sure. So we got a couple of other ones too. You got some so we were talking about Bigfoot earlier. Do you want to play the Bigfoot one or the Dogman one? Because these are like, I'm chomping at the bit now.
To me, it doesn't matter. You can pick whichever one. One of the funnier ones, and that I would like people to hear, is the Hacksaw Jim Duggan story.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
I loved Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
In the black community, it's hard to get black folks to really talk about paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
But when we do start talking about paranormal stuff, it is literally the most entertaining thing on the planet because of the way we describe encounters. Like, I've heard some descriptions of Dogman and Bigfoot and other entities that I would have never even imagined someone thinking to say it like that. You know what I'm saying? And when he told me when he told me, yo, this thing came out like Hacksaw Jim Duggan's, you know, Hacksaw had the 2x4 and he was holding it up going, oh, I could see exactly what he meant by that. I was like, yo, I understand exactly what you're saying right now because I can visualize it 100%. So I would love for everybody to hear that one. I mean, it's a great story. It's a little bit long, but it's a good one.
Yeah, we'll play that one then before the top, and then we'll go to the break, right into the break at the top of the hour. But yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Yeah, I definitely want to hear that.
You remember Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Yeah, yeah. I was the last live wrestling match I ever saw was in Little Rock, Arkansas. I had a Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He would go to the turnbuckles and just hold up his 2x4 and just like that, and everybody would just scream, you know.
Man, that was the good old days, man. That's when it was really like that was WWF, not WWE.
Sure
That's
enough.
when people used to be bloody, blood running down their head. It was all fake, but it was so damn entertaining. It was insane, man. You had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you had Nature Boy Ric Flair, you had the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, Roddy Piper, Sergeant Slaughter.
Roddy Piper, Jake the Snake. Man, it was, dude, you don't know how many body slams I took as a kid because my cousins were watching WWF wrestling.
Too.
I'll talk about power drivers, body slam.
Yeah.
Like, it was just crazy, dude.
Well,
it was insane, but those were good days.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's hear the story. Here we go. This one's called the Bigfoot Hacksaw Jim Duggan's. I can't wait to hear this. Here we go.
Now, this is going to sound funny. And looking back on the situation, it kind of is funny. However, in that moment, there was nothing funny about this shit at all. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I grew up in the Avenues. For those of you who know nothing about the Avenues, if you find Southern University A&M College, the Avenues is the neighborhood right next to it. It's Avenue A through Z. It's the country, but it's hood. Shootouts every night, cutlasses on 24s. Granted, Baton Rouge itself is the capital of the state of Louisiana, but it's still fucking country. So the virus hits the streets and people start acting funny. Then, 6-8 months later, family members start losing jobs and quitting jobs because they're told what they gotta do with their body. I'm sitting around the table with my uncles playing spades, and they start spazzing out saying, yeah, we country niggas, but we not idiots. This whole situation is way too fishy. Every time I turn on the television, it's a black person getting a shot in the arm. I don't understand it, I don't like it, and I'm not doing it. With that being said, one by one, family members were losing their jobs left and right. While we're sitting around that table, they start talking about going back to the old ways of living. Sure enough, 2-3 months later, I noticed everybody in my family started to plant gardens in their backyards. And some of my uncles got chicken coops. That's when my Uncle Freddie first brings up the concept of me and him going hunting for hogs. He tells me, boy, listen, I'm going to take you out here to go hunt some of these hogs. If we can get 3 of these wild hogs, that's enough meat to feed our family for the next year. Now, if I'm giving you the impression that my uncle was suggesting that I go hunting with him, then I'm giving you the wrong impression. Because by the end of this conversation, he told me that I was going to go hunting with him. Look, I don't have a problem telling you this. Yes, I'm born and raised in Baton Rouge, which is technically the country, but I had never been hunting my entire life. Do I have a rifle? Hell yeah. AR-15 100-round drum. But I don't carry that AR to deal with no hogs and no deers. I carry it to deal with the ignorant fools that live in my neighborhood. But it's Uncle Freddie. He's demanding that I go hunting with them, and the man has been like a father to me. So guess what? I'm cool with going hunting, right? Wrong. Because had I known the whole circumstances surrounding where we were going hunting and what had happened there in the past, there is no way on this planet that he could have ever gotten me to get into a vehicle with him to ride to that location early in the morning and prance around in the woods had I known what the hell was out there. Now get this, 3 days after this conversation, we take a 2-hour ride to this piece of property that he owns. He and I carry this huge, gigantic feeder 600 yards out into the woods. We set it all up, put the feed inside of the feeder. Uncle Freddie says, we're going to let this sit here for a few days, attract some hogs. Then he hangs a trail camera up and begins to spread corn all over the place, and then we leave. A couple of days after that, he calls me and tells me he's seeing hogs all over the place on his trail camera. He explains that we're going to get up early in the morning, head over there, set up in a tree, and we're going to take 2 or 3 of them hogs out of the woods. So the next morning, he picks me up at 3 a.m. and we're in the woods when the sun comes up. And that's when shit goes south. Imagine the scene. We're there in a tree stand waiting on the hogs. And you can hear this tree snapping. That bitch goes crack. It sounded like motherfucking lightning struck a tree, but it wasn't a cloud in the sky. Understand, the sound came from directly in front of us, which was on the opposite side of the feeder. I'm sitting there watching Uncle Freddie, and he's squirming and shifting his weight. So I whisper to him, Uncle Fred. He looks at me out of the corner of his eye and says, quiet, boy. Hold on. Just be quiet. But I'm scared. I ain't never heard no shit like that before in the woods. Clearly, an entire tree had just been snapped in half. And I needed an explanation. So I'm like, Uncle Freddie, hogs don't snap trees. What the fuck was that? Again, he says, quiet, boy. I'm trying to listen. Now remember, it's early in the morning, 5:45, 5:50 a.m. The sun is barely up. It's quiet as a Catholic church on Sunday. We sit there for another 10 minutes and nothing happens. Then exactly about 15, 20 minutes after that, them hogs come out and start feeding. So let me pause right here and paint a picture for you of exactly where we were and how it looked. The feeder is downhill from us. So we're up in a tree looking down on the feeder. That feeder is located in a clearing on this property. It's shaped like a rectangle, but it's not going across us left to right. That rectangle clearing is going from front to back. And on the back end of that rectangle, it starts to close in, kind of making a triangle. Now, all along the edges of that triangle is nothing but woodline. However, from our vantage point, you have an absolute clear line of sight to the feeder, to the hogs, and all the way to the back end of that triangle. Now, like I was saying, the hogs have come out, they're feeding, we're discussing which one we're going to shoot and kill when his phone starts to vibrate. You can hear it in his top pocket. So Uncle Freddie takes out his phone, unlocks it, and looks. Then all of a sudden, he says, we're leaving. I'm looking at him like he's crazy because we've been out here since 3 a.m. And all of a sudden, you want to leave? But I notice he's got this panicked look on his face. I tell him, no, Uncle Freddie, at least we're going to take one of these hogs. I've been out here getting eaten by bugs all morning. We're going to get us a hog. So I aim and shoot. Bang, hit that hog right in the neck. It drops, legs go up in the air, and it starts shaking. And right then and there is when that look of panic that Uncle Freddie had on his face converts to a look of sheer terror. We gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go right now. Understand, this man is damn near falling out of the tree, trying to get down. And that's when it happens. You remember the WWF wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan? The big ass white dude that kind of had a pot belly and he would walk out towards the ring holding a 2x4, huffing, going, hoo, 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 hoo. You remember him? And before you said, yes, I was too young to know exactly who the fuck he was, but I'll explain to you and before you even said, absolutely. At this point in time in my life, I was way too young to know anything about Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But I'm going to explain all of that shit to you later. But listen to this. Remember how he came out with that 2x4, huffing and puffing and shit. Well, that's what this thing did. It comes out of the wood line on the back end where that triangle is, carrying a motherfucking tree, holding that bitch up in the air like Hacksaw Jim Duggan's, huffing and hoofing and groaning all in one. The only difference between this thing and Hacksaw Jim Duggan's was it was 9.5 feet tall with shoulders that looked like they were 8.5 feet across. Listen to me. Now my Uncle Freddie is no longer climbing down out of the tree. He is hugging the tree and sliding down, hitting the ground and starting to walk off. And by the time my black ass gets on the ground, he's 35 yards away from me, looking back saying, bring your ass on, boy, we got to go. And the whole time I'm trying to catch up with my Uncle Freddie, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's is standing there, 1 foot on the fucking hog's head, like this is my hog, huffing and growling. Then it decides to roar. And when I tell you, I have never ever heard a sound like that in my life. It sounded like a freight train was blowing its horn, combined with this breathy, gargly noise. Fucking terrifying. That sound hits my Uncle Freddie, and his ass freezes in place like he's in a fucking trance. And if I'm lying, I'm flying, I'm literally pulling on him. Uncle Freddie, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. But he's frozen in place, almost as if his body is there, but his mind has just snapped to a whole nother place. Listen to me when I say this to you. He is standing there, shaking, eyes glazed over. I literally have to slap the shit out of my uncle in order to get him to get back into his body so that we can leave. Now, once he's finally out of the trance, I throw my rifle over my shoulder and I begin to run. And that's when he screams at me, son, whatever you do, do not run. We have to walk out of here. Do not run. So the two of us fast walk the 600 yards through the woods back to his truck. Now, when we get in his truck, he is sitting there in the driver's seat like there is not a monster 600 yards away, just staring. And I tell him, Uncle Freddie, I don't know what the fuck happened to you. I don't know if you've seen this before, but Uncle, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go right now. Finally, this man takes off. Finally, this man cranks up the truck and we take off and leave. And he doesn't say a word the entire trip home. When we get to Uncle Freddie's house, he pulls into the driveway. His wife comes outside and she says, honey, where are all the hogs? And right here in this moment is when it all sinks in for me. Because she knew, looking at the look on his face, exactly what happened. Because she says, oh no, honey, not again. It can't even be possible. Not again. Not after all these years. Not again. He just looks at her with tears in his eyes and says yes. Now pause. Let me tell you something. My Uncle Freddie is a hardcore motherfucker. Everybody knows Uncle Freddie is a bad motherfucker. Ain't scared of shit. The man worked in funeral homes his entire life. For the past 15 years until the whole COVID thing hit, he worked in a haunted funeral home. Everybody in the hood knew that place was fucked up. But he did it. And it didn't bother him at all. In fact, his nickname was Funeral Home Freddie. But this same person who could work with dead bodies And being a haunted funeral home with shit moving, shadows moving around, bodies falling to the floor, was having a complete and total mental breakdown. I watched that man walk into the house with tears pouring out of his eyes. And it wasn't until a month later that my Uncle Freddie was back to being semi-normal. And that's when I learned about Hacksaw Jim Duggins. And that's when he explained to me who the hell Hacksaw Jim Duggins was. You see, when he was a teenager, he would go hunting on his family land. He did it all by himself. And that Bigfoot, the same Bigfoot, did the same thing to him back then. Came out of the woods holding a tree, huffing, puffing, and growling. Except for Uncle Freddie, shot that thing 6 times and got it to back off. All this time, he thought he had killed it. But when he was out there with me, he realized it was the exact same one. And the poor man had a complete and total mental breakdown. And let me quote his exact words to you. It came out of the woods when I was a kid, holding that fucking tree up in one arm. And the only thing my mind could relate it to was Hacksaw Jim Duggins. It looked big and crazy, just like his ass did. Now get this, I didn't even know this, but this was his first time going back to that land in damn near 30 years. In his mind, he felt like it had been waiting on him that entire time.
He said, we got to go.
Dude, when that man told me that story, bro, now let me break some stuff down for y'all. So I went to Southern University A&M College. I went to college in Baton Rouge, right? Studied electrical engineering. I have so many friends in the avenues from when I was in college. I was a wild boy. We did a whole bunch of crazy, ignorant stuff. When people started finding out that, like, people in Baton Rouge were hearing Darkwater stories, but they didn't know it was me. Like, when they found out it was me, it's like, nah, dog, you lying. That can't be you. I had so many people sharing stories. It was insane because they realized, okay, I know this dude. Man, when I tell you just the way he expresses himself, like the errors in the story came because I was laughing when recording that story. So when you hear like the double errors, that's because I was laughing so hard doing the recording because I was like, man, my man is nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's nuts. But
I was laughing too because I could imagine Hacksaw Jim Duggan holding up a tree.
It's like, my man is nuts. But but that's how, when I say that when black folks share encounters, it's always so dramatic and funny. It's just ridiculous. It don't matter if it's a demon. It don't matter if it's a ghost. It don't matter if it's a werewolf. It's just dramatic and funny because of the way people express themselves. And it's like, once you crack that safe and get them talking and get them comfortable talking, oh my God, man, the way it's expressed is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, that was a good one. Listen, we got more Dark Waters coming up, you guys. I hope you're prepared for it. That was really a good one. We'll be right back. Fringe.fm broadcasting to you live on the 24th, going into the 25th of February, 2022 here. You want to stay tuned as we go deeper into the night with Ryan Gable. The Secret Teachings is going to be on. So there's no other network doing this. I mean, you got other networks. I don't want to say their names, but the same host for 4 or 5 hours, 5 nights a week. We got 3 hosts for you, 6 hours of broadcasting, 5 nights a week. It's diverse. It's entertaining. And we're here for you. And speaking of which, like, you guys are here for us. I think we're getting more people from the South, the Southeast, especially like Florida and Georgia and all these states. So that's good. I can see your little dots popping up. Thanks for listening. Dark Waters is here with us. You want to go to his website at I Am Dark Waters. You can sign up to his membership and get access to all of these stories. I mean, how much content you got on this website now? You should have a mass load now, huh?
I think it's something like 9,000 hours of content.
Yeah, and you got like thousands of members, man. I mean, I still talk to people in this field, and there's still members that have been there since the beginning. I don't even think I was around. I don't even think I knew you when you first started doing this, actually. So, I mean, I started doing radio in 2016, 17, and I talked to you a couple of years after, I think, maybe a year after. So, yeah,
it's a lot of content on that website. It's a lot of content, and there's a lot of Easter egg content on that website that people have found that if you search the right terms on a website, you just find other stuff that, like, for me, like the Dark Waters Army and family, I call it Dark Waters Navy. Like, there's levels to it. There's people who have submarines and they go for a deep dive and they find all kinds of stuff. Because everything I find that I believe is important, I document it there, whether it be, books and on mind control, persuasion. Like, it's a lot of stuff on my website that people just find. They're like, yo, I read that book you had up there, man. That's creepy. That's crazy. And then there's stories that are there that's just not on the front page for you to find, that never were even publicized. Like, I never put it out on YouTube, never did anything. I just put it there, and I put the keywords there, and if you look it up and you start searching and you just being nosy, you're going to find them. And it's some really, really entertaining stuff. So it's a lot of content on that website.
Well, speaking of content, we're giving people some of your content here to check out your stories. So we've did The Other Woman. We've played Bigfoot, Hacksaw Jim Duggins. That's got to be my new favorite one, man. Like, that's my new favorite one for sure. That's the first time I heard that one. Yeah,
that was hilarious, dude.
So we got one about a dog man in Alabama or Bigfoot walking in the woods. It's up. You're the boss tonight, so it's up to you.
Let's go with this is another brother story. Go with the dog man in Silas, Alabama, just to set it up for you guys. So, you remember around coronavirus time, right? When they started locking everybody down and people were scared to leave their houses and go places. By the way, I was traveling the whole time, never got sick, never did anything, never took anything nobody told me I'm supposed to take other than vitamin D and C.
Right on.
But this happened to this guy during that time period where it was like everybody was afraid. And his girlfriend was trying to break up with him. And he was like, nah, boo, you're not breaking up with me over the phone. We've been together too long. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You're going to have to see me to break up with me.
You send me a text message.
So, yeah, you ain't breaking up with me over no text message. That's not how this going. Yeah. So we're going to have to do this the right way. So he's on his way to go see her, and he finds himself running low on gas and has to stop in this small town called Silas, Alabama. And it's a small town, like one gas station town. And then the gas station's closed, and all you can use is the pump outside. And he finds himself having an encounter with Dog Man, and literally scared the crap out of him. But again, homeboy is hilarious, the way he told the story. And I tried to capture the exact tonality, the exact essence of how the story was told to me. And she still ended up breaking up with the dude, which is the crazy thing.
All right. Well, here we go. Just I got to remind you guys too. We usually don't do like adult content, but I mean, I make exceptions, especially for Dark Waters and the Grimerica crew. But here we go. You got to for the stories, man. Here we go.
I don't mean to put it on your nose, but it's clear how my baby's running this the block cause she fear what you do to you if you get dirty hands and veneer. What you do, what she is, little boy, I tell you this. If baby wants sit, she can sit. If baby says lit, it's lit. Got your bank account and I cute. If she said it loud, it's the truth. If baby wanna ride, she can ride. If baby needs some time, she got time. Got your bank account and I cute. She can make a count, how about you? She would put you in the bag.
Man, listen to me. When I tell you I didn't believe that Dog Man existed. In fact, there is nothing that you could have ever told me prior to seeing this that would have made me believe that werewolves were real. Why? Because I came up in a Southern Baptist household. Now, in my mind, demons existed. But werewolves? That was something out of Hollywood movies. That was until I was forced to stop in the middle of the night for gas in Silas, Alabama. The reason why I was on the road is because my long-distance relationship with my girlfriend in Montgomery had taken a turn for the worse. So I decided to hop on the road and surprise her so she and I could have a conversation, as opposed to us just breaking up over the phone. Understand, it's 12 midnight. I pull up to the gas station. The inside is closed. I hop out of the car, take my debit card, swipe it, pull the pump, and start pumping gas. Standing there, leaning on the car, cell phone in hand, scrolling, looking at our photos on Instagram, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? If you gonna break up with me, you gonna have to see me before we break up. I'm not gonna make it easy on you just to dump me and move on to the next guy. Imagine the scene. I'm standing there, immersed in my thoughts, when I hear what sounds like someone kick over a metal can around the side of the building. But looking in that direction, there's no one there, so my attention turns back to my cell phone. A few seconds later, my attention is diverted to the gas pump itself as I realize that it's costing me damn near $60 to fill up my tank. And that's when I see movement out the corner of my eye. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I found myself in a situation similar to this, I'm always thinking it's a carjacker or a robber. Never, ever, ever would I believe that it was a freaking werewolf. Now, opening my driver's side door, reaching into the side panel, drawing my 9mm, I say, hey, listen, I don't know who you is or what you want. I just need some gas. It don't need to be no shootout out here. Let me get my gas and go on about my business, or we gonna get to shooting. Just then, as the word shooting comes out of my mouth, I hear the pump clicking, signaling to me that the tank is full. So now, imagine the scene. I'm taking the nozzle out, putting it back where it belongs, closing my gas tank, and sliding my body back into the driver's seat. When my butt cheek hits that seat, I hear the noise again, except for this time, it's coming from behind me. And honestly, now I'm afraid because I know this is not happening by accident. So I quickly crank my vehicle up, pulling off onto the road. And that's when I see it. You know how at the gas stations, they have the little panels up above the pumps where they do the marketing where it says Shell or Exxon. Those huge metal bars with the signs attached to it. Well, I'm looking through the rearview mirror and I see what looks like a freaking hyena. But this ain't no little bitty hyena up on top of that metal. And listen to me when I tell you this. The level of fear and adrenaline that flushes through your body when you see something like that. Oh my God, I felt like I was having a heart attack. Now listen to me when I explain this to you. The most terrifying thing of it all is that this happened at the height of the coronavirus outbreak. Everybody was afraid. Nobody was outside. The roads were empty. And looking back on it now, had that thing decided it was going to take and eat me, the only thing they would have found was my car. My black ass would have been a goner.
That looked like a hyena.
Dude,
oh man,
that's exactly how you told that story. You know, there's a dog, man, that actually doesn't look like your classical like black timber wolf, yellow eyes. There's one that actually looks like a freaking giant hyena. Spots, everything. Spots on the chest, but it's actually spots on the skin, not spots on the fur. The fur is sparse and thin to where you can see the spots on the body. And that's what he encountered. That's one of the worst things to run into. For whatever reason, why I didn't eat him, I don't know. Maybe I don't like dog meat, but I tell you what, he was lucky to get out of that one.
Man,
real lucky to get out of that.
The freakiest one I ever heard, and if you guys sign up to the membership, I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, but the Lockett Ranch one where the whole family was battling those dog, man, that was the craziest one I ever heard. To this day, actually. Yeah.
That was crazy. There's one I'm working on right now. And I actually started talking to, this is how long I've been talking to these people. Since when I produced Siege of Lockett Ranch is when I started trying to court them to tell their story. That's 6.5 years. I've been talking to this family, and they have serious dogman activity. It's seasonal dogman activity with 3 different dogmen. One that they call Mr. Hyde, which is it's like a Bigfoot with a giant wolf head and a snout. Then the other one they call Big Red because it looks like a damn red fox. And you know how foxes, you've heard a fox bark before, right?
Yeah,
It's like this real feminine. It sounds kind of like a bird almost when they're barking.
Sometimes they scream like a woman too.
Yeah, it's like a scream. Yeah, it's like a scream / it's almost, sometimes it sounds like a high-pitched bird. Other times it sounds like a scream. His wife had multiple encounters with that one, but it wasn't, for whatever reason, it's attracted to his wife, but it doesn't want to hurt his wife. And then they had this hyena-looking one that came across their property twice. It only came twice, and the 2 times it came, it killed, the first time it came, it killed 3 dogs. The second time it came, it killed 2 cows. So I'm in the middle of producing all those stories now. They're on the website, and some of them are on YouTube. I think when it's all said and done, I don't think it'll rival Siege of Lockett Ranch because it's different, and the encounters are different, and the way that people interact with these dog men is different. And the other difference is I already have him agreeing to do an interview once I'm done to validate everything I've said. So with Siege of Lockett Ranch, the guy just he wouldn't agree, and his family wouldn't agree to actually do an interview, but this guy's agreed. So that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, so, I need to ask this too. Mojo's asking in the chat. Let me go back to it here. I'll drop my Discord. I said, what's up, Joe? Can you ask Dark Waters if he's dropping any more of the UNC stories?
Onk, the next portion of Onk is with the editor, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, I can tell you now because I'm at the computer. Yeah, it's with the editor. So that's an hour long. So yeah, that probably Monday for members. Just to tell you a little bit about that, Joe. So the Onk story really is a deep dive into a lot of my personal history, my friends' personal history here in New Orleans. A lot of the things we did that to this day, if you weren't there with us and you hear this, you think it's a lie. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when I tell people stories when I'm out drinking, and I'll be like, yeah, man, I remember, we walked down on what's your girl's name? Erykah Badu. Just walked into the backstage and started talking to her. And like, man, you didn't meet Erykah Badu? Yeah, I did meet Erykah Badu. Do you have pictures? And I'll show them the pictures of my friends with Erykah Badu. Why are you not in the picture? Because back then I didn't take pictures.
Yeah.
What you mean you didn't take pictures? Stuff like that. Young Jeezy, the BMF crew, Black Mafia family, like all kind of crazy stuff is what that story goes into from my history and my background and things that I used to be into. And if you listen to that and you listen to the man that I am now, then you'll understand, the evolution of myself and my soul and my spirit, because that version of me it wasn't a bad version, but we'll put it like this. It wasn't an evil version, but it was a bad version, a bad person. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Well, he's just saying those are his favorite stories. So that's why he was asking.
He needs to listen to the Cable Guy story. That's one of the damn best stories. And then right now I'm doing a series of, I'm not going to tell this one because this one is just gross, but I'm doing some stories from a group of friends of mine that they wanted to share some of the crazy stuff that they do. All these guys, when I do play golf, I play golf with them. And you're talking about guys who are have sanitation contracts. One guy works for the city of New Orleans. He's like the assistant to the mayor. The next guy is like the second in charge to the police department. And so we're out playing golf one day, and they're playing golf. I'm talking trash, smoking cigars. And they're just telling stories. It's like, yo, y'all need to let me tell some of these stories, man, for real. Like, just let me tell the stories, and I'm not going to tell people. It's y'all. And he's like, all right, well, do one. So I did one and sent it to him, and it was like, yo, I want you to do my story. So I'm doing this series of stories called Friends. And these are the stories of these guys that have had their interactions with each other over the years, and a lot of guys I've had interactions with. And those are the ones that I like the most. Like, I love doing cryptid encounters and Dogman and Bigfoot and all that. But when you really get down to the human stuff, it's not only when it's frightening, but it's very, very entertaining. You know what I'm saying? Like the one that's coming out tomorrow is about a guy who has an addiction to smelling dirty panties.
What?
And that's the story. Yeah. But I know the guy. Like this, the dude really does have an addiction, and it's not little bitty panties. It's like big girl panties,
granny
like,
panties.
Yeah, like. But my man is wild, dude. He always been wild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's what he is. You know, that's my thing about friendship with people. I accept you for who you are as long as you accept me for who I am. And I understand the limitations of what you're going to do, how you're going to act, and how you're going to behave. And I'm fine with you acting and behaving that way. But when you get outside of the realm of that, then I've got a problem with you. So if you're a narcissist, then I accept you for being a narcissist. If I want you in my life, I'm going to have you in my life. But then when you start acting like something different, now I got a problem because your ass is a narcissist.
You ain't making sense now. Yeah.
You ain't making sense no more. So something's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. And listen, we got a couple of stories, maybe one, maybe two, if we're lucky, we might play. If you guys want to ask Dark Waters any questions, you can call in too. Feel free to call in. It's 1-800-588-0335. The phone lines are open. If you hear a commercial break when you call in, just hang out, whatever. We'll pick up the phone line. But, yeah, I Am Dark Waters is the website. Our website's lightingthevoid.com. The network we're on is fringe.fm, KTLK, digital broadcasting. Also, as we go deep into the late night, coming up next is The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I can carry nearly 80 gigs of data in my head.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
All right, we're back with Dark Waters here. Go to the website, I Am Dark Waters, sign up. If you're not a member of Dark Waters' website yet, you're missing out, man. Because, like, with the way the internet is, there's all kinds of stuff that we can get ourselves caught up in and get bored with and watch YouTube videos, blah, 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 blah. But I promise you this, if you sign up to become a member of Dark Waters membership, you're not going to get bored. You're going to have the kind of content, if you're an audio guy especially, and I know you said you're getting into video stuff too, right? So this is the stuff to get, right? And speaking of which, this story, we're sampling some of the content here. This is the Rabbit Man. Never heard of that. Never, ever heard of the Rabbit Man. Tell me a little bit about this real quick before we play it.
I had never heard of this either until I got this phone call and started talking to this gentleman. I've heard of things like this, where it was like a person who was on drugs and they literally, put like a mask on and they had trouble with the person because they was on drugs. But I've never heard anything like this. So this happened in North Carolina. It's a bouncer who had an encounter in their club. I don't think the club is called Club 1, Club 2. It's a number is the name of the club. And they had an encounter with this man dressed in a suit that they thought had a rabbit's mask on, like a really, really elaborate like mask. But it turned out that they whooped the crap out of this man and the mask never came off. And they tried to pull the mask off and it wouldn't come off. And it felt like real flesh and real skin and real bone under it. So he was like, I think this dude was literally a man with the head of a rabbit. It was crazy, dude. You're going to enjoy this one.
All right, here we go, guys.
Do I'm horny, baby.
Oh my God. The music just filled
These sons of bitches.
What is it? Let's get crazy!
Now, I'm sharing my story with you because I believe deep down inside, you won't think I'm crazy. But I want you to realize and understand what I'm about to share with you sounds crazy as it can be. You see, when I was 25 years old, I worked as a bouncer in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, Club 1, the place that I worked in back then, didn't have the best reputation in 2017 to 2018. Mainly because the owner, who was a really, really cool, laid-back dude, did a terrible I mean, absolutely terrible job in hiring bartenders and waitresses. However, even though some of the staff was shit, the venue was lush and amazing. Tonight, I had a fight with a man who I assumed at the time was just wearing an elaborate rabbit mask. Started like any other night. The club opened, people started rolling through, and by 11, 12 p.m., the place was packed. Now, this particular night, we were just a little bit short-staffed behind the bar, so there was a line of people piling up at the bar trying to get drinks. I'm upstairs in the VIP section holding a conversation with this gentleman who didn't understand that he needed to tuck his shirt in. I'm trying my best to explain to him that the way we keep the riffraff out of this club is by requiring people to present themselves the right way. And while I'm in the middle of holding a conversation with him, I noticed that one of the bottle girls is getting an attitude with one of our favorite VIP clients. So now, I cut that conversation short with him, head over to his VIP section, and start trying to smooth everything over. This particular guy came to the club Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night of every week and spent a minimum $800 to $1,000 each day. And that type of customer, he was cool. He was laid back. He always had beautiful women with him. He was cool as a fan, never a problem. He was the exact type of person that we wanted to spend their money in this nightclub. And no sooner than smoothing out the situation between the two of them, I head back and finish my conversation with the gentleman about his shirt, smooth that out. Now I'm standing there looking over the balcony, seeing this commotion over in the corner by the restroom. Understand, the nightclub at that point in time had unisex bathrooms. And every time there was a commotion, it typically meant that some drunk guy was in the bathroom acting a damn fool. Imagine the scene. Music is blasting. I'm headed down the steps, cutting directly across the dance floor and headed to that bathroom. And when I get there, there's a group of women all holding a handle, pulling, tugging, keeping the door shut from the outside, like they're trying to keep someone or something who's in there from coming out. Now pause right here for a moment and let me explain something to you about women. I've worked as a bouncer since I was 19 years old. And women will say all this stuff about they don't need a man, they don't want a man's protections, they need equal rights, they need equal this, all this other crazy shit until something physical happens. When some physical shit pops off, a woman wants a man to handle it. And at the moment that they see me, they all simultaneously let go of that door and start chirping at me. There's a freaky weird guy in the bathroom with a mask on. He was looking over the stall at one of us. Like I said before, I've been bouncing since I was 19 years old, and there's very few situations that have ever rattled me. But when I went into that bathroom, there's a dude standing there with a suit on, back turned to me. And the motherfucker's got a rabbit mask on. Or so I thought at that point in time. And when I tell you, standing there looking at him from behind, this shit was creepy and weird. I really did understand why these women were freaking out and losing their minds. Because as he's standing there, the right ear begins to twitch and turn in my direction. And I said to him, listen, bro, I know you in here fucking with these girls having fun, but that shit is not cool. You fucking up our money in here with this mask on, man. I'm gonna need you to leave the club. But he doesn't say anything. So I take a step closer to him. He's about 10 feet away from me. So I take one huge, gigantic sliding step towards him, saying, yo, you're not fucking listening to me, my man. You're gonna need to leave out of the club. And that's when this motherfucker turns around, and I swear to you, it's the most frightening thing I've ever seen. It's a motherfucking human being. Human hands, human feet, shoulders, arms, legs. But this dude got the head of a fucking rabbit. And if that's not bad enough, the eyes are this glowing purple color. Now, like I said a few seconds ago, I've been bouncing since I was 19 years old, and there are few things that can rattle me. But this shit scared the hell out of me, forcing me to take one giant step back away from him, saying, listen, bro, I don't know what kind of shit you on, what kind of dope you using, what kind of sci-fi bullshit you pulling, but you gonna have to fucking go. As the words go are coming out of my mouth, he's stepping towards me, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm gonna need you to stay right there. I'm gonna need you to chill the fuck out, stop moving. On some straight up horror movie bullshit, he steps towards me again. Imagine a scene. I'm standing in the bathroom facing him. I can see his reflection in the mirror on my left-hand side. To the right of me are the bathroom stalls. And now I'm thinking to myself, and I say to myself, now this is a fucked up situation. Anybody who's willing to go this far to scare people might just be willing to fucking hurt me. And that's when he begins to take one large step closing the gap between me and him. Now, I personally taken that exact same large sliding step, closing space exactly as he was doing. And the only reason why you take a sliding step like that is if you're ready to fight. So as he's sliding into me, I'm throwing a punch at him, hitting him dead smack in that rabbit nose. And that's when I first realized that this just might not be a fucking mask that he's wearing. How did I know? Because I felt the moisture from his nose on my fist. And so now I'm fighting afraid, punching, kneeing, elbowing, kicking at this motherfucker. And no matter how hard I hit him, he turns and keeps coming my way. When I kick him and he falls down, he gets right back and starts coming my way. Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna need to get the fuck about this bathroom. And just as I'm backing away towards the door, it opens, hitting me in my back, pushing me towards him as the rest of the bouncers come into the bathroom, and we proceed to hand out the most vicious ass whooping I have ever given anyone in my life. And I need you to understand, the entire time we are whooping Rabbit Man's ass, he is not making a sound. Finally, the four of us grab him by his extremities, one holding his right leg, one holding his left leg, one holding his right arm, one holding his left arm, and begin to carry his ass out the back door of the club. We go out the door, down the steps, and toss him to the ground. Listen to me when I tell you, I've had hundreds of fights, and I've never whooped somebody's ass until I was tired of whooping their ass. So by the time we throw him out into the alley, I'm the first one to go back into the building searching for some water. Listen, I had to have taken about 8 to 10 paces inside that door when I hear one of the other bouncers, Terry, saying, "This motherfucker is getting back up." Now, I know you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. I was trying to figure out the exact same thing. And when I tell you we whooped his ass, we stumped mud holes in his ass in that bathroom. And for Terry, who was the biggest of us, to be freaking out coming back into the club and closing and locking the door, man, that shit said a lot. So now the four of us have locked him outside of that back door. We are inside of the club, standing there looking at each other like, what the hell is that? And that's when I started to point out things to them that I thought were not normal. And I explained to them, listen, if he was wearing a mask, man, and I punched him, the mask should have bent and twisted and turned. It was almost as if I was punching real fur and flesh. Now, if you're still with me, keep listening to the story. I hope I didn't lose you because I'm really about to freak you out now. 3:30 comes around, closing down the club, they're wiping down countertops, organizing bottles, cleaning out, just going through the regular phases of shutting down the nightclub. Now, I'm not sure if he's still doing it now, but back then, right before we all walked out of the door, the owner always had a quick little meeting where he asked about things that had gone on that night. And so we tell him about the dude in the bathroom with the rabbit mask on, right? So we tell him about the dude in the bathroom with the rabbit mask on. And he laughs it off, saying maybe it was somebody who was using drugs and put a mask on, but don't worry about it. However, as I'm standing there next to Terry, I start to notice that he has these hairs all over his shirt. Looking down at my shirt, I have these white and gray hairs all over me. So now I'm really starting to freak out because if that was a mask on that man's head, where in the hell did the fur come from? Now, I'm really starting to freak out about the situation. I can see in Terry's eyes that he's freaking out as well. But we're trying to keep our cool because the girls are still there. Now, as we're all walking out of the front door of the club, I look left up the street, I look right down the street. Don't see anybody. Now, the entire group is circling around the side of the building, headed to the parking lot. And that's when I get a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, across the street, right there in this little small alleyway. I swear to you, I saw that damn rabbit man standing there, looking at us. So now I'm walking over to Terry's truck, and I'm telling him, hey, dude, I think homeboy is still out here. I just saw him over there across the street. And Terry takes it upon himself to cross that street and walk into that dark alley. He's there for every bit of 60 seconds, and then you hear his big ass screaming. Next thing you know, he runs across the street, hops into his truck, and pulls the hell off. And down that alleyway, I can see purple, glowing eyes.
Bro, what the hell, man?
Man, I'm sorry. I forgot that one had that much cursing in it, man.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What the hell about? That's a freaky story, man.
Yeah.
Where did he say that took place again? I totally forgot in the beginning.
I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina, but it was in North Carolina. See, this is the thing that people have completely missed over the past 24 months since the whole coronavirus thing started. I'm getting phone calls from people who not only have seen things in the past that want to talk about them now, but people who are seeing things that are weird as hell. And like in the case of this story, this gentleman saw, not only did he see that rabbit man, but he was researching Goat Man because he actually saw Goat Man when he was out hunting. He was researching Goat Man and came upon an old Goat Man story that I had on YouTube, and he just reached out by email. And I was like, look, you want to tell me your story? We'll talk in person. I don't want to read no email. And so we went through the Goat Man to get to the rabbit man. And it's crazy because remember earlier we were talking about the age of Aquarius and the Great Awakening and people's eyes opening. You see it in all aspects of life. Mm-hmm. Like people are talking about things that they wouldn't normally talk about because they were so afraid that, people will call them crazy or insane. People are seeing things that they've never seen before, and they're feeling emotions that they've never felt before. And they're looking for outlets to express those emotions. Not just so happen to be an outlet for the paranormal stuff that people experience.
Rabbit man. I would have freaked out the first time I punched him and felt all that stuff he was talking about. That's when I would have immediately started freaking out.
Dude, and when I tell you homeboy was like, dude was hilarious. He was like, bro, for real? He said, and remember, I was trying my best to describe the sliding step because when he was telling me that story, he put so much emphasis on it. He was like, I knew some shit was about to pop off, my man, because he took a sliding step towards me where his back leg bent and he slid in.
I know what you're talking about.
Dive. Yeah. He was like, I knew some shit was going down, so I just swung on him. He was like, and when I connected, dog, he was like, I connected and I felt that wetness on my fist. He said, and I'm like, this ain't supposed to be wet. And he's like, after that, I started hitting him with palm strikes instead of punching him. Yeah. And he said, when I hit him with the palm strikes, I'm expecting even a human's face, when you hit it with a palm strike, the skin moves and it twists. Yeah, he's like, yo, I'm expecting all that to happen, but his face is hard. He's like, it's hard and muscular, like it's a real animal. And he was like, dog, had they not came in the bathroom, I don't know if I could have dealt with this dude. I was like, man, that's crazy.
Well, he wasn't making any noise, and he kept coming too. That's the freaky part about it,
Dude, you punch an average person in the nose, they might shake it off. They be like, oh,
yeah,
but they shake it off and fight. But it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So, but those are the kind of stories that I have, that I shelved, that I just didn't really talk about because, the interest was in, certain topics like Dog Man and Bigfoot. That's the beauty of being a member of the website. You get, if you go on YouTube, that's not even on YouTube because there would be no interest in it. The YouTube interest is Bigfoot and Dog Man. I say Big Man, Bigfoot and Dog Man. But on the website, you get everything. You get gangster stories. You get regular Joe stories who find themselves in gangster situations. You get stuff like that. You get Dog Man. You get Bigfoot. You get everything. Because to me, if you're there, you're a connoisseur of horror stories. You want to hear stories. You love storytelling, whether it be horror stories or whether it just be other stories. If you're a connoisseur of stories, then you're looking for a different thing. And I guarantee you that's what you get when you go there.
Yeah, they're the best for sure. And I think Mojo's asking again, he's dropping all kinds of questions on you in the chat. He's asking you, what about, do you have any more Black Sun stories?
Yes, I have the whole Operation Black Sun done. I've just been waiting to drop it. I was thinking about dropping it on 22222, and I was like, I don't know about that one. I didn't do the research on the numerology of it, so I was like, I'm going to pass on that. But it's done. It's coming. But right now I want to get through Onk, because Onk is really a tribute to Albert, my partner who was murdered. And then from there, I'm going to turn my attention to Operation Black Sun.
What do you think?
Before he gets Operation Black Sun, he'll get the story of Scissors. Go ahead.
What do you think the weirdest cryptid you ever heard of is? Because that's making me think Rabbit Man, right? Like something that no one ever thinks about.
The weirdest one is this same thing. The humanoid body of a man, arms, legs, and hands, but the face and head of a bat.
What?
And so, yeah. So you know there's this TV show. It came out a long time ago. It was I think it was like The Grimm or something, where this guy could see people's real faces, and like they would transmorph and all the rest of this crazy stuff. I'm starting to believe that a lot of the crap that, they put on like TV shows, it really, really is drawn from people's real life encounters and experiences, because some of these encounters sound a lot like the stuff from that show. It's so much so that one of the guys referred to the show for the description of it. And I was like, man, I've never heard of this. What is it? So I started watching it just to see. And I was like, yo, like, where do they get this concept and idea from of races of things that hide as in human form and human shape? So it has a human head. It shows you a human face, but it's not really a human face. And it's starting to seem like that type of stuff, that's 3 levels of rise, that type of stuff really exists. And I wasn't getting those kind of stories, again, prior to this whole coronavirus outbreak. I wasn't getting that stuff. So either it's always existed and it's finally coming out, or it's all new and it's just starting to happen now. Either way it goes, it's still messed up.
Yeah. Well, I was reading this book by Eliphas Levi called Transcendental Magic, which is like the path of the white magician, basically. But he says in that book, as he was Catholic too, but he says in that book that there are elementals that walk around as humans, but they're not human. He calls them elementals. I was like, what? And his whole book isn't, there's nothing paranormal in it. It's just basic, like, occult science. But that's the one thing he drops, that there are humans walking around that are not demonic, but they're elemental. They're like not humans. They're just beings.
They're something else, but they look like a human. I'm telling you, it's got to be the truth, dude, because there was, I didn't even produce the one about the guy that looked like some kind of freaking bull, except for he had horns on his neck. Like, how a bull has horns on his head? He had looked like a bull, man. He had horns on his head, but then he had not horns on his chin, but horns on his neck. And I was like, what? Like, when homeboy told me that story, I was like, man, I can't believe this. This shit is out of hand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy. But the more of them I get, I'm like, man, there got to be some truth to it, because none of these people know each other. You know what I'm saying? They don't know each other. They're from thousands of miles apart, but they're sharing stories that the encounters aren't similar in what happened, but the encounter is similar in the type of entity that they're encountering and how it behaves and what it's able to do. And that's kind of freaking me out, because it's the concept of, me and you go out to hang out and smoke cigars, Joe, and we hanging out with this dude that we freaking think is cool, and next thing you know, he's a freaking snake or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just
Yeah, it's trippy, man. It's a lot to think about. But you guys, we do got to roll out of here, but make sure you go to the website, I Am Dark Waters, to sign up if you don't have a membership. And thanks for coming back on the broadcast. I know it's been a minute, but yeah, always love talking to you and sharing these stories, man. Love it.
All right, man. Anytime you need me back, bro, I'm here.
Yeah,
I love being on with you.
For sure. And hopefully we'll hear you more on the station too, because I want to hear you more on radio, period. But I'm a radio guy. You know me. I love radio. So, yeah. But thanks again. Thanks for coming on. You guys go check out IamDarkWaters.com. That's the website. We got to get out of here. Ryan Gable's coming up next with the Secret Teachings. And I can really say this tonight. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams.